if you can't feel your body in the present, specifically with your partner, obviously sex is not going to feel good. It doesn't seem to lead to female happiness, the feminist prescription of prioritizing your career, these masculine things. I know so many women who have said, I would have given it all up to be with a really good man and have a family. Pickup was my introduction to spirituality. That led me down a rabbit hole discovering Tai Chi and meditation and all this other stuff. It's like, I wouldn't have done that on my own. The most basic thing is to really tell the truth to each other. We tend to not tell the full truth to the people we care about the most. The basic solution, I would say, is can you set up a time with your partner where you both get to air your resentments, but you do your best to not emotionally lash out if they tell you something hurtful.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is Brian, and I have an amazing guest for you today. His name is Ruan, and I can never say your last name, Ruan. Can you say it for me real quick?
Meepagala.
Meepagala?
Yeah, but that's why I go by a mononym, Ruando, all my social media handles, because I don't expect people to learn my last name.
Ruan. We'll go with Ruan. We'll just go. Ruando works. Ruan, I've known Ruan for years, and I've met Ruan many years ago when he was doing a lot of work with sexuality and living in New York. And boy, his life changed a lot. You know, you're living in Peru now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You married with a daughter.
And a son. Just had a son 3 months ago. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Thanks.
And when I think of you, the one thing I wanted this podcast to really be about was helping men and women really live the life of their dreams, live in CAP, David Hawkins CAP, courage, acceptance, love, peace, top of the emotional scale, and really learning to live life on their own terms. And if anybody's doing that, it's you. That's the one thing, you it's almost like you refuse to settle. Going to Mexico, this isn't it. Going to Peru, gotta figure out what's here. I'm going to explore this. I'm going to explore that. And you're so good at trying new things and exploring and figuring out what you love. I think it's amazing, and I have tremendous respect for that. So,
thanks. There's a dark side to everything you said too, which I'm happy to share too. Like I do jump into things kind of quickly, but yeah, we could get into all of that.
Well, let's dive in. Let's just dive in. Well, I mean, I see you in Peru. You were talking about before training horses and how amazing horses are. I see you out working out outside all the time, and really just building this almost like a off-grid natural lifestyle. What would one of those dark sides be? Let's just dive in.
Well, I'll say with what you shared earlier about like I've taken pride in the fact that I don't hesitate. When I have like an impulse, I'll do it. But I've realized, especially maybe the stage of life, I'm in my 30s now. When we met, I was in my 20s, early 20s actually. So, maybe there's more like room to make bold moves and deal with the consequences. But now, like, honestly, like moving to Mexico, I think was a mistake. I should have done my due diligence before. We were in Thailand. My wife had moved to Thailand to be with me. She didn't really like Thailand. And I was like, forget it, let's go to Mexico. And I probably should have done it a little slower, honestly, in retrospect. But it has been an adventure because of that, right? Like I know I'm not the type of person that, sits in their same town for year upon year, wondering what somewhere else is like. But I will say it's also very expensive, being so impulsive as I can be. I guess that's a negative way to put it. But yeah, I mean, life has been an adventure, and I think I've gained a lot from taking action. So I'm more prone to that rather than thinking about things too long.
Yeah, well, you only have so many years on this planet, right? And those years are going to go by fast, and you're going to look back, the way I see it at least, and you tell me if you see it this way, but you're going to look back and feel like you lived how many lives? And I feel like looking at you lived how many lives? You're such a different person today. Does it ever feel like that?
Yeah, I guess so. And I mean, I guess part of the dark side also is like, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, actually I kind of missed that life. And then I kind of missed that life, and, I mean, there's like, I guess a lot of life decisions, you can't always go back. Obviously I'm a father now. So certain freedoms that I had as a single guy, just like digital nomading, living out of a backpack or a suitcase, I don't have those freedoms anymore. And if I'm honest, I do miss aspects of that. But also, I think it's part of, maturity is moving into the next phase. And, my kids give me, so much joy. But do I miss being a single guy who all of his belongings are in a backpack? I do, honestly, Totally. I guess we can't live every lifetime at the same time.
No, we can't. It's really tough to do. and it'd be impossible to do. I think that's the whole part of life, right? You got to learn to let go, and to really enjoy the moment you're living now, you got to learn to let go. And so you just recently, well, tell me. I was going to ask you a little bit more about Peru, but for everybody on this call, just so you know, Ruan does a lot of coaching himself. You do a lot of deep work with primarily men and women, really helping them get in touch with, how would you say, get in touch with their masculine side, get in touch with their darker masculine?
I guess, what I'll call the dark masculine, or like the less socially acceptable impulses of masculinity is what I think is what guys specifically reach out to me on, whether it's younger guys wanting to date better because they're disconnected from their sexuality, or older guys. Now that I'm married, I guess more married guys are reaching out to me where like their intimacy isn't right, or they don't feel respected in their relationship. They don't feel like the head of the household or the man, the king of their castle, if you will. And a lot of that comes down to digging into what Jung might call shadow, or the taboo parts of our psyche, and like these impulses that are natural, but society teaches us to shove them aside when we're young boys, a la nice guy syndrome or whatever other cultural factors. So yeah, most of what I deal with, the acute problem, is dating or relationship issues, but I do love working with guys on their purpose and other things like that.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I love the term dark masculine and the shadow, and I'm sure that really draws a lot of guys to you. It's a fascinating term. Can you talk a little bit about that in regards to the modern male today? Because so many men, I think society's very neutered, if you would agree. I mean, the way you're living, you're really getting away from that. But I think so many men have lost the opportunity to really develop that side of themselves because we're buffered in society so much. From death, from a rougher life, a tougher life. We've got everything at our fingertips. What is that like? Like for me, I guess the best way I can put it is, for me, diving more into my masculine over the years, at first was tough because I had such a feminine nature in the beginning, and then eventually I loved it more and more. Like there was almost like a calling inside of me, like I need more of this. I need more of this. What do you experience with yourself and with students as you look at this?
Yeah, well, it's like, masculinity, or like what it means to be a male animal, let's say, that existed for a long time before we had culture or morality or like social norms or anything, right? There's like certain characteristics that evolved alongside of testosterone that like allowed males to succeed. Now, succeeding in wild nature is not always pretty, right? Sometimes it involves kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, procreate or not. Like there's these kind of zero-sum things. And if one of my favorite Instagram accounts is Nature is Metal, where you just see like, animals ripping each other to shreds. And like, this is nature too, right? Like you see like a bunny ripping a snake to shreds because it tried to eat its young. Like this is what nature is, right? So with masculinity, there's all of these behaviors and traits within us that were really important for us to survive and replicate, but in modern society, doesn't really fit. And then, like you're saying, like society is built to kind of cushion us. So like a man doesn't need to be connected to his strength to, in most cases, not the way our ancestors were. He doesn't need to be connected to like the realities of death or like zero-sum games or, anything like harsh, right, that our ancestors did. So it's very easy to like say, in some way indoctrinate young boys to be like, oh yeah, you don't need to be connected to these elements, right? Like, a 3-year-old who wants to like use a stick and like bash the walls, right? That's a natural boy impulse. And obviously as a parent, you don't want that in your home. But the thing is, and I think, maybe you experience something similar. Most of us young men, especially if we grow up with a feminine energy or with nice guy syndrome or whatever, you realize usually probably around puberty of like, oh, all that stuff is actually important because there's certain parts of life where it still is important, even though we live a cushy life. One of those things being sexuality, right? Like women are still running by the same wirings that women in 10,000 years ago were running on, and that's where that's where a lot of guys kind of wake up, or hopefully wake up, if like, oh, being this like kind of soft, sweet, disconnected guy doesn't make me loved or liked or no one wants to be intimate with me, even though the society says that's what's a good man. So anyway, it's a long-winded way. It's like that's to me the dark masculine is simply the stuff that society conditions us away from, but it's still part of our nature. Right. And we can only, even though modern life doesn't require us to like throw spears anymore or anything like that, to be emotionally healthy, but also to be able to connect with women or with other people, to be a leader, to be a healthy human being, you need to be complete. So
it's an interesting thing what you just said there, because in modern society, I almost think it's just as, if not more important in a weird sort of way, because if not, it's very easy. I guess in the past you had to do it or you died, but now you don't have to do it. But if you don't, what kind of life do you end up with, right? You end up with this working in a cubicle. Yeah. You end up without a life, and in a weird sort of way, you end up like Walking Dead, right? You're Walking Dead all the way through life, and who the hell wants that? And I look at men today, and they when they start to step into their dark side, they get so much happier after they get used to the initial brunt. So of it, but do you see the same thing?
Yeah, and it's like what Jung called individuation. Like you can't really individuate or become yourself if you're still cutting off parts of yourself. And the hard part, of course, is how do you express these darker instincts in a still healthy way? Like I'm not telling guys to go out, raping and pillaging or anything like that, but like how do you express like natural animalistic impulses in a way that is good for your life and good for other people. And I do think, like what you're saying is the big picture, right? Like you're not really living your life unless you're fully connected to all of you. But I think the catalyst again for most of us is women, right? It's like, if you're a straight guy, at least it's like, oh, women are giving me the feedback that I'm not being authentic right now. Women are giving me the feedback that I'm being a fake version of myself rather than real. And I do think we were talking about horses earlier. Like, I think horses are like one of the best bits of training that I've had for my energy or my emotions that I just discovered recently. But I needed something like a woman to like show, a horse wouldn't have been like a strong enough catalyst when I was a young man, right? It's like the desire to be intimate with women and the denial or rejection is what forced me to look at this stuff.
So do you see women as one of the greatest personal growth tools for men that pretty much exists?
For sure. I mean, it's like it gives you stakes, right? Like if you're lonely or sexless or loveless, it causes so much pain in you that many guys who would never look into spirituality or personal growth or anything, like just the fact that they're lonely is like, okay, I'll open up this book or I'll try this other thing or look into this weird looking energy or whatever the thing is, right? Like it's like a strong enough pain point, if you will, that it forces. I was just talking with a guy recently, like pickup, even though I have very mixed feelings about it, pickup was my introduction to spirituality, right? Like I was just trying to like not be lonely and not get rejected by women. And then somehow that led me down a rabbit hole, discovering Tai Chi and meditation and all this other stuff. It's like, I wouldn't have done that on my own, right? I did it because I was getting rejected all the time, right? And I had sexual problems and whatever.
Yeah. I found women were one of my greatest catalysts. I was more interested in women than making money when I was young, because I felt like if I made a bunch of money and got women for making money, I'd settle. And I'd rather be able to get women without the money than go get the money. And I know it's weird logic, but it was like...
Yeah, no, I felt exactly the same way because I was really good in school. I was like typical nerd. So I kind of felt like, I'm sure I'll get a good job and make money. But then I had the thought, because I had seen this maybe in older guys of like, they're with someone and they're not sure if she's with him because of the money. Like he's not sure if she actually likes him. I don't know. I got that idea in my head. Maybe I read a magazine article or something. I was like, I definitely don't want to be that guy. I definitely don't want to be the guy who provides for a woman and then she cheats on him with some low life who has charisma. I want to be, if anything, I want to be the other guy. Right. And not that, obviously balance is important, but yeah, that's what I was seeking.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That was a huge pain for myself too. And getting through that is so rewarding. Now, I want to ask you, as you get these guys to go into their shadow, a lot of them are probably in their heads, right? A lot of them are distant from their bodies, and the shadow, the way I see it, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, is really a lot of it's stored in the body. It's stored in the tissues. It's stored in the nervous system, not up here in the logic. We're using the logic to avoid it. When guys begin to go down into that body, I mean, to me, that's it's a difficult challenge. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of pain, a lot of resistance that comes up. What's your experience with that? Because it seems like you're getting heavier and heavier into this type of work. Like, we're going to dive deep into those emotions.
Yeah, actually, again, in the same way that women are a catalyst, I do feel like for a guy who's in his head, has a hard time feeling his feelings, or has resistance to feeling his feelings, sex, again, is kind of a way that, I don't know, it's like the sugar that gets you to, take the medicine. It's like, usually with a guy who's in his head, I'm like, I'll play like, I'll just throw scenarios at him, or I'll, ask him to imagine a certain scenario just to see what actually makes him feel arousal, right? Like, just using sex almost as like a trick to get him into his body. If like, oh, I feel something, right? And like, this from here, obviously, many things come from, many things branch off. It's like you can get someone to connect to his emotions, or like a pain or a rejection or a mother wound that he had from a young age. But again, would he just look at it on his own, or would he be able to? It'd be kind of hard, but sexuality kind of leads you there. And actually, I think this is a Jungian idea. It's like, when you have a sexual dream, it's not always about sex. It's like, if I have a sexual dream, I look at everything else that was going on in the dream. It's like, maybe sex was just to get, like, my subconscious's way of getting my attention, right? I'm sleeping with my third grade teacher for some reason in this dream, but it's really trying to show me something about my childhood, right? I generally believe, like, it is a way to, arousal is one thing that really gets at you in your body. And when I was working more with guys specifically on sexuality, I used to always say arousal and anxiety can't exist at the same time. Like, you can't be in your head and getting turned on physically at the same time. Like, they don't typically, what one, like, they're mutually exclusive, right? And like, anyway, so that's one, I guess, trick I use. And it's usually easy because most guys reach out because they want to have a better intimate life anyway.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point you just made there, because even when I was super shy and nervous, when I got super aroused, a lot of that went away. And suddenly sometimes the dominant side came out, sometimes the playful side came out. There is an animal that comes out of you, very interesting point. So your principle there is, if I can talk to them about what turns them on, teach them to allow themselves to get aroused, it's going to pull them back out of their body, back out of their head. Do I have that right? And into their body? Is that how?
Yeah. And that's even how I I'll say in quotes, teach flirting. It's like when a guy is even flirting by text, right? Like I don't know what the pickup industry is, what the state of the pickup industry is now, but at one point when 10, 15 years ago, it was all about what lines to say and what openers to use. And the ultimate result of that is like inauthenticity, or you're up in your head because you're trying to remember what to say, as opposed to, if you really connect, if you really focus on her sensations, your sensations, you're really paying attention to her, and you allow yourself to appreciate. This is kind of a thing I've taken from Zen, or borrowed from Zen. It's like, you appreciate her beauty, and I would take it the next level, like really tapping into, what does your body want with the woman that you're talking to, right? It doesn't have to be like super like pornographic, but what do you actually want? Like, do you want to touch her? Do you want to smell her? Would you like to stand a little bit closer? And if you get into that feeling, the words to say kind of become obvious. Like, you kind of tap into that instinct where, like, if you could get yourself a little bit turned on in real life, not shameful, not like, oh my God, I don't want her to know that I'm thinking about her in that way. But no, I'm letting her know through my eye contact, through the way I'm looking at her, like, I see her as a sexual being. What to say to allow flirting to happen kind of becomes obvious. It's just like, the human mating ritual, I think, comes through you. Like, the most witty things I've ever said have come out when I was kind of horny, or turned on. Like, it's just like, the right thing to say or do if you could tap into that instinct, I believe.
So I love what you just said there. Are you saying that for a man or a woman, let's say, that we should be kind of living in turn on all the time?
Well, I would say it's if you're specifically, I don't know about all the time, maybe all the time, but specifically when you're speaking to someone that you're attracted to, you might as well let yourself feel what you actually feel, rather than thinking, how do I get her to like me, or how to get him to like me, right? Like, if you're talking to a woman specifically because you thought she was beautiful, whether you say that immediately or not, that you should at least feel like your feelings should be congruent with what is true. And then the interaction can be genuine rather than, being a nice guy and cutting off your sexuality and then asking her out a month later. And she's like, what? I thought we were just friends. Like, no. Yeah. You set that up for failure by being inauthentic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. A lot of nice guys neuter themselves and then they blame the woman for it. Super common. I like this idea though. This whole idea, and I've talked about it. And it sounds like you kind of agreed with it slightly. Is this idea of like, can you walk around in your turn on a little bit? I mean, you don't have to be like a rock hard turned on sexually for everybody to see, but can you walk around life and live life in turn on a little bit? And because let's think about Zamperion. Let's even take the life you're living now. You've got this beautiful studio. I'm looking at everything in the background. You've turned your life into a form of art. This is what Zan's done too, right? There's this whole idea that beauty needs a witness, but part of enjoying something, there's the beauty of it, and then there's the sensual nature of it, right? And when I see you, I'm thinking this guy has really, over the years, gotten much, much more in touch with his ability to enjoy pleasure. And I just think that's an art form in and of itself, to really drop down low on your body and enjoy something from your turn on. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. And actually, this is making me think of maybe to tie the sexuality and the living life turned on. So when I was studying sexuality more and when I was younger and maybe coaching specifically on that, one of the things that I learned that was really profound for me is the connection of how much sensation you could feel in your body and your emotional state. And I think women kind of get this more naturally than men. But like one of the things was like, especially in coaching couples with sex issues, like they can't feel pleasure, their sex life tanked or whatever. Almost always has nothing to do with sexual technique. It has to do with resentment. Because if they're mad at each other about some fight they had or stupid domestic things, like just have like years of resentment built up, the resentment makes them feel the past and it prevents them from feeling their body in the present. Which obviously, if you can't feel your body in the present, specifically with your partner, obviously sex is not going to feel good. And I have been thinking about this because resentment and the opposite maybe would be gratitude, or to use Zan's phrasing, like to witness the beauty of life, let's say, to bring it like into the abstract. It's like, these are kind of like these two polar opposites of like, if you're really grateful, then you're automatically in the moment, you're probably feeling your body. But if you're resentful, you're feeling the past, you're mad about the past, you're feeling old feelings, so you can't possibly feel your body. And like it kind of, I have to, this is kind of a newish realization of like applying it to life, but I think that is kind of it, right? And then as far as living life turned on, it's like, it's not necessarily walking around with a boner as you mentioned, but it's like, if you're really in the moment, grateful for everything going on, then of course you're feeling your body. Right. Like, of course, like, it's like, oh, this is great. Like, this moment is great. Like, me talking to Brian right now is amazing. And it's like, I'm reminding myself in this moment, like, what a great moment to be grateful for rather than think about anything else. And yeah, I mean, I would say like in this moment, I'm feeling my body a little more because I just put my attention on it.
Well, that's where I think life is meant to be lived. People can't heal in the future and the past. They have to come into the now to heal. And that means feeling the body. So I think that's a beautiful statement you just said. And this whole idea of, I love to explore this whole idea of well, beauty is, would you agree that beauty is a way of pulling you into the now?
I guess so. Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, beauty, you can, you think of the beauty of this moment, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah. And also, I had another thought, but it escaped me.
That's all right. I was thinking about that. I'm always thinking about how do I pull myself more into the now all the time and live from the now.
Yeah, actually, I just remembered. Sorry, it's like there's objective beauty, right? Like a painting can be beautiful, a woman can be beautiful, a room can be beautiful, but again, like tying this to things I've learned in sexuality, it's like, it's not just about the stimulus outside of you, but how you choose to engage with it, right? Like with the sexual example, a man can pleasure his wife in the same way he's been doing for 10 years. But if she's resentful, she's not accepting it, so she's not going to feel it. You could be in the most beautiful studio or on an amazing beach or have an amazing family or partner or business or whatever. But if you're not, there's an active like internal side for you to enjoy it, like this external stimulus and your choice of attention to be open or closed, to be grateful or resentful. That's what allows the beauty to come in. It's kind of like I'm sure you've seen this before, where like a guy who's got built up resentment at women is very quick to judge a woman's looks of like, oh yeah, she's actually not that hot. Or then you see this in me and Instagram comments sometimes, like, oh, and then they point out these imperfections. It's like, well, clearly you just hate women, right? Or clearly you're afraid of women, or clearly you feel like a woman like that would never like you. So you have to judge her. You have to like turn off, as opposed to Zan's thing of like, she's beautiful. It doesn't matter if I see her again or whatever imperfect. I'm appreciating her beauty, and that highlights it, and that makes me enjoy life more in the moment. And I guess it could be applied to things that aren't women as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think any woman you can find something unattractive about, and any woman you can find something beautiful about. And so it's very easy to, you got to decide what you're going to focus on, and whether you like women or don't like women. Now, you brought up the resentment thing a couple of times, and I think that's probably one of the most. We was having a discussion about it with somebody yesterday about building up resentment with his girlfriend, and he's having all these analytical discussions with his girlfriend, trying to figure out what she needs to be happy. And we were talking about resentment being built up, and I think it's Seth Godin, right? Is it Seth Godin that said that you can tell when somebody's going to break up by the level of resentment in their body, like how much longer they have together? There was a book he wrote. I think was it in Blink? I think it was in Blink. What do you do to teach people to get out?
James Gottman? Is it Gottman?
Do I have it wrong? Is it not Seth Godin? Blink was written by Seth Godin, wasn't it?
I could be wrong, but I thought it was.
I think he referenced
John Gottman.
I think Blink was written by Malcolm Gladwell. Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I remember that piece. I think it was John Gottman, something Gottman. He can tell when a couple was going to break up based on like these micro expressions of like, do they like, what you're saying.
He can almost tell down to the month, like how many months they had left and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is what he said. Yeah. So what do you do to get rid of the resentment? Because this to me is probably the crux of, I think, and you tell me if it's true, I think a lot of great relationships end because they don't know how to get rid of resentment. They could have been great together for their whole lives, but they end it because they don't know how to constantly clean out their resentment. And I think this is an important piece.
Yeah, I think, the most basic thing is to really tell the truth to each other. And it's kind of interesting that probably the people that we tell the least, or I don't know if the least, but like we tend to not tell the full truth to the people we care about the most, because we don't want to hurt their feelings, right? Like I remember, a lot of my friends when I was younger, and maybe including myself, were kind of like a little wilder, and I had a lot of female friends. I had this one female friend I was pretty close with, where she was cheating on her boyfriend kind of regularly. And, sometimes he would find out, sometimes he wouldn't, but she really loved him. So she would lie to him about the cheating, obviously. But I always thought it was interesting that everyone else who she didn't care about so much knew way more about the truth of her than the person she loved the most. And I know this is maybe an extreme example, but like, we don't want to tell the truth, the emotional truth, to the people we really care about, and, are typically our partners, because we don't hurt their feelings, but then if that builds up the resentment. So the basic solution, I would say, is, finding time to tell the truth in a way. And this is something I assign to like any guy in a relationship where it's on the rocks. Is like, can you set up a time with your partner where you both get to air your resentments, but you do your best, and I don't know, I would say promise, but like do your best to not emotionally lash out if they tell you something hurtful. And this is a really powerful thing for, I guess, both men and women to release, especially when someone reaches out because like their sex life is tanked. This is something that really opens things up, like to be able to really share what you're upset about, or to share the things that you've been withholding and have it received by your partner. It just creates this connection and feeling, and like the sensation floods back. That's like the basic thing. There's other things you could do, like sexually, in the same way that resentment blocks sexual sensation. I think the converse is also true. Like, really good sex can kind of clear resentment, but it's a little bit more advanced, I would think.
That's an interesting statement. Are you a fan of Radical Honesty? Or have you ever read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is, though, I've honestly gone up and down with like my level of radical honesty, and very often, even with friends, like not even with like romantic. Actually, during COVID, I kind of bonded with this group of people because we were kind of locked down in the same area, and I kind of became attached to them, and I became less willing to tell the brutal truth the way I did, because I didn't want to like offend the 4 people that I was able to see, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of assumption of scarcity is one of the reasons why people withhold the truth from the people that they care about.
When you first started practicing radical honesty, did you ever have that intense experience where you let something go and you swear it's going to go wrong, but there's this huge release and the freedom that comes from it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it ends relationships, though, when you're really honest, too.
It depends on how well the other person can handle radical honesty, you know, and what you're bearing, I guess, too. The relationship piece is fascinating, too, because I think about what you said there a lot is a lot of times men and women, when they're in a relationship, they say, you know, this is the person I can tell anything to. But when it comes to, yeah, I find that girl hot or I find that guy hot, they can't say it to that person, but they'll say it to all their friends. I find that person sexy, or, oh my God, I have this turn on. But the one person they should be able to talk to about it, they can't say it to. It's like you're supposed to, you're almost expecting society to stuff that stuff down. And I have found, I'm just kind of curious what you think here. I've found that it's being like, not walking around going, hey, that chick's hot to my girl, but getting to the point where we're radically honest. I understand, and I want her to know that I understand that, yeah, you're going to find other guys hot. You're human. I get it. And I'm not going to take it personal. And I'm not expecting you to walk around and honor it all day or do anything about it. But I really want to get her comfortable with being honest with me, which in a weird sort of way minimizes it. You know, and have you ever had experience with this? Because I know you've been in communities where people were more liberal in this area.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, so my marriage is my first monogamous relationship, kind of for those. I mean,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, to be fair, also none of my previous relationships lasted, and I wouldn't say that, you know, non-monogamy was the reason, but I was like pretty brutally honest, but I was also kind of detached, and which is why none of them lasted. So I have kind of a mixed view, and I don't know if I even have like a super definite view on it now, because I do kind of feel like, especially when you have a family and like it's suddenly not a symmetrical relationship. Like my wife depends on me. I depend on her too, but like she depends on me in kind of an asymmetrical way sometimes. Like, you know, I provide for the whole family, you know, the kids lean on her. She spends more time with them, and, you know, then she leans on me. And it's like, I kind of feel like I don't need to bash her over the head with every single truth. It's not that I want to withhold anything important, or like I certainly don't want to lie to her, but like there's certain things I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but like almost protect her from certain things. I want her, the most important thing for me is that she has a very pleasant experience. So I don't know if I'm a little bit contradicting myself, because it's not like, you know, I think obviously to not tell the truth builds resentment and all the things that we just spoke about. But I kind of feel like once you enter kind of I call them asymmetrical or dependent relationships, the rules are a little bit different, right? Like I do kind of want her to live in a happy state, and like I share with her what is I feel important. And I don't know, I'm kind of like on the fence, but that I've shifted some of my views, I guess, when it comes to like actually having a family and children.
I think I get what you're talking about. I think I really agree with you there. It's not something you bash over the head with them, but you have an early discussion where, if, let's say, you're walking down the street, you see somebody attractive, you're not going to be announcing it to everybody. It's like, yeah, it is what it is. But that's just normal. But if something's bugging you and you need to talk about it, I want her to be able to talk about it with me and not have to run to her girlfriends. Like if it has to do with, like I'm having these weird urges or something like that. And because I find that when they talk about it, they get, and you're really solid as a man, it kind of goes away. You know, and there's a sense of relief that comes out of them. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, you know, anything that's hidden kind of grows, especially if we're talking about sexual desires. If you have like this secret thing, it becomes like more and more tantalizing, as opposed to like, I mean, one thing I did recognize in non-monogamous relationships is that if you can really talk about everything, and if everything is kind of out in the open, the desire to have lots of partners kind of goes down. I think both in men and women. It's like, you know, like you don't feel it doesn't like hook onto your mind as much as like if you're secretly texting someone, or you know, it's like it kind of takes away some of the energy. I guess maybe that's what you're pointing to.
Yeah. I've never been a big fan of cheating. I've been non-monogamous myself, but ethically non-monogamous, where we talked about it. And now I'm probably more monogamous than anything. I get it. So you got into a monogamous relationship. That's fascinating to me. I'm kind of I don't even know what to ask here. I'm kind of curious about how the dynamic changed for you.
Yeah, well, my now wife and I, when we were first, getting together, we spoke about like she had tried non-monogamy before, and we both kind of concluded that it's a pretty bad way to start a relationship if you want it to last. Because, especially when you're still forming your bonds, if you throw jealousy into the mix and this and that, and like, it's already hard enough, like learning to really communicate with a different being, or like for, a masculine being and a feminine being to get on the same page about things is like, it really, it's just not a great foundation. But then we also got pregnant within the first year being together. So then it was like, well, we're pregnant. So like, I'm not going to go sleeping with other women while I'm providing for you. And like, you're going through this process or anything like that. And then it kind of developed. And honestly, I guess my views have changed slightly. I'm still a man. I still have the desires that I've always had. But especially with children, like, I'm not saying that we're going to be monogamous forever. It's an ongoing discussion with my wife and I, but it just seems like, honestly, I don't even have the bandwidth. It's like each of my children is a separate, intimate relationship, right? Like I have a relationship with my daughter. My son is, very young now, but like it's a whole other relationship. And it's like to juggle another girlfriend or something, or another intimate experience where I have to be emotionally available to someone else. It would just take too much away from my family. So that is the real big thing. And I have kind of taken on like, I do see how traditionally conservative values do just fit more for a family, right? Like being, it's like the Winston Churchill quote, like if you're not liberal when you're young, you have no heart. And if you're not conservative when you're old, you have no head. I would, at 25 or, when you and I met, I never would have thought I would be saying something like this, because living a very liberal, non-monogamous, non-attached, do whatever kind of lifestyle. But now that I have dependents, it's like, well, I don't really have the room for that. And like traditional values, that should just fit better. Like there's a reason why, like my wife and I have we live traditional gender roles. I pay for everything and she, takes care of the family and the household mostly. And like, this was a conscious choice. Like she had a business beforehand. She was making good money. And it's like, we chose this because it fits better. It feels more natural, even though it's definitely not what I was doing or what she was even doing when we were younger.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that kind of relationship. I actually experienced it myself a couple times and loved it. Absolutely loved it. As a man, having somebody, because there's that whole thing, you're out there, right, hustling, and she's supporting you and making sure you're taken care of so you can hustle for the family. Not just the kids, but also like when I was dating this beautiful, amazing woman, I'd wake up and she had it set up. I was ready to go and tear the day up at work. It made work so much more fun. I have this person that has my back while I'm working, and she really believes in me. And to me, that was in a weird sort of way. It made me work with turned on for her, turned on for life, turned on for the day because I'm providing back. It's a circuit.
Yeah, it's like fuel, and I think this is so different than. I don't mean to use like the political terms, but like the more symmetrical, liberal household where the man and a woman are splitting everything equally and doing everything equally, then you're basically two separate beings transacting within a household, like transacting with each other for services and goods or whatever. Whereas like what you just described is like you're becoming one being, right? You're the head of the household. She's the heart of the household, as some people say. And my wife and I actually point to like, there was a moment where our relationship was like super on, and we try to like strive for this moment. We go in and out of it, right? We're not perfect, but we try to strive for this moment. It's like we moved into this fixer-upper house in Thailand. It's this kind of rundown house. It hadn't been lived in for 6 years, and we put a lot of work into making it nice. And I learned how to do a lot of handyman stuff that I'd never done before. And there's a lot of stuff that really pissed me off. Like I just didn't know how to do it, and the drills, and there was getting sawdust in my eyes and all of this stuff. But this is one thing I was trying to do. I was trying to hang like a swing chair or something into a concrete porch, and it was like really difficult. I kept like cutting my fingers, and I didn't know how to like do the anchor, and it was so difficult. And I was like, fuck it, like there's no way I would have done this on my own. Like if I was just living by myself, I would have been like, fuck it, I'll just hire someone, I'll do it. But the fact that I knew she was upstairs and I knew she was appreciating the hard work I was doing gave me like this extra energy to figure it out. And I did like a handyman thing that I never done before. And like, that's like a moment of like, this is how we should live our relationship, where like, I know she appreciates me so much that I can do things that I would never have done, it's just like a stupid example, but like that is like what kind of like we talk about it a lot. This is like what our relationship should be like all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful example. It's not about the chair that you were working on. It was about the energy of what you two were creating together, and that's how I wish more people could have that experience and live some of that with somebody. I see these old couples sometimes, and they fascinate me. I used to have an article. It was a People magazine article. I lost it. And the couple had been married 81 years, and he was 101 and she was 99. Their grandkids or their kids, they were taken care of by their kids or grandkids. I don't know. They're in their 60s, so late 60s or something like that. And they said, yeah, they've never not madly been in love. These two, as long as we've known them, they still hold hands, they cuddle. She's almost blind now. He walks her around and makes sure she gets around okay. They're kids, and they had 60 some kids under them, between all the grandkids and everything. Said, yeah, that's kind of amazing to watch them too, and I've always strived and thought, if that's possible for one couple, that's possible for many. They know something. They're doing something. It's not even a knowing. It's they're living something. It's unconscious competence together, and creating that perfect little I always look at it like the symbiotic masculine feminine balance, right? And did you want to comment on that, or it feels like you're working on that?
81 years together, like that's a full lifetime. It's like, I guess they wouldn't know how to not, that's one of those situations where probably when one dies, the other one's going to die within a week. Like they don't know how to be without each other. And I do think, there is something, given, I guess, that I've shifted to be more conservative in my outlook. I am like appreciating the people that get young or get married young, right? Like you experience adulthood together. Like I do think, obviously that's not what I did, right? But like, there is something kind of beautiful about that. Whereas when I was younger, I was like, no, I want to party, and I'm not even party. I just want to have lots of experiences and romance all these women and stuff. And I do kind of, I think it's something beautiful to be together forever, or to get together when you're really young and just experience, like discover life together. But anyway, I didn't do that, but yeah, I think it's a cool thing.
In my mind, you're still very young. When you think about it, that people are staying young how long today? Like my friend, he runs a YouTube channel called The Wellness Dad. He just did a video on a guy that's 61, that's ripped, cut, jacked, looks like a mate. He's killing it at 61. And I was thinking, yeah, we're just not aging today like we used to. And so you might have many, huh?
You think he's on gear, like he's taking something?
He says he's not. No, he's not giant. He's more like lean, ripped, athletic. Okay. Works out all the time.
Gotcha.
But he says he's not. So it'll be interesting because my buddy's probably going to meet him soon because he did the article on him. Didn't get a chance to meet him. And but now because this video is taking off and doing so well, they're probably going to end up doing a video together at some point.
Oh, cool.
It'll be real interesting to see what they come up with. But yeah, can you? I would love to hear a little bit more about some of your work, especially the archetypes you're talking about. I keep seeing the reference to archetypes in your work, and it seems very interesting. My teacher Carl always talked about Campbell's work with mythologies, things like that. So,
yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know when it was, a couple of years ago, the Jungian archetypes became kind of like a buzz thing in pop psychology. I think I was before that, just to say I was into it before it was cool. But, just Jung's idea of the archetype is simply just like in the human genome, there are patterns of information that determine your eye color or whatever, and have been passed on. In the human psyche, there's certain patterns of behavior that have been passed on. So like, what I generally refer to as the masculine archetype are all the behaviors, feelings, and thoughts that correspond or correlate with testosterone, right? Like all the things I was speaking about earlier, like the things that allowed males to be successful, from the earliest animals. And maybe, let's just leave it at that. So I just think it's really interesting. Like when you think about it, there's obviously infinite ways to slice up the psyche, whether we call it like this is the lover archetype, the part of us that connects with the opposite sex or whatever. I just find it's like a useful way of looking at, especially, when a person has inner conflict, I just did an episode for my channel on the heart versus mind dilemma, like when your thoughts want one thing, your feelings want something else. And, heart and mind is another way of slicing up the psyche. You can call them archetypes if you want. It's maybe a loose definition. But like there's parts of us that are disparate, and they have their own drives and feelings and desires. And if, going back to the dark masculine, if there's parts of your personality or your psyche that you kind of shoved away, that becomes your dark masculine. All the things that you were ashamed of when you were young and tried to dissociate from kind of takes a life of its own, right? Like you might not consciously associate with that, but it almost takes on its own personality, where like the nice guy has violent dreams or violent impulses, or like overreacts to things, or the guy who suppresses sexuality gets into some weird sexual fantasy, or some politician who condemns whatever. We find out he's doing that in his private life. Like you see that a lot when anything is suppressed, it comes out. So I think archetypes are like a useful model of looking at these aspects of ourselves.
So do you spend a lot of time digging into these archetypes with your clients and helping them get in touch with their archetypes, their shadows?
In a general sense, right? Like, I try to emphasize, like, there's not, like for instance, Gillette and Moore had the king, warrior, magician, lover archetypes that's one way to slice up the male psyche, right? It's not like there's a universal king that, is this like magical thing. It's like, they're behavior patterns, right? So usually it's like with the dark masculine, as you said, like specifically what a guy has suppressed about his emotions or his, usually his sexuality. It's usually lust and power are the things that get separated, from. We get enough signals when we're young that those are bad things or not things that we should express. So it's usually stuff like that. I think more recently, since I've been working with more married guys and fathers, the king archetype, or being the head of the household, which also for a lot of people is kind of a taboo thing, right? Especially in nowadays, to be, consider yourself the head of the household. People just assume you're a misogynist or something like that. It could be a taboo thing for a well-meaning guy to step into that power, but it is also what, this is my opinion, but I strongly believe in this opinion, is what a typical woman wants. She wants to be with a man who is in control of the situation. And, that's a thing that's a hard archetype for a man to express, or for many men to express, if they grew up being told that everyone should be equal.
Yeah, I think it is in modern society a hard archetype for them to express, but I agree with you. I think a lot of women want it. And would you agree there's a lot of women that want it and are having that same internal battle with themselves between surrendering and taking control?
Yeah, my wife and I speak about this all the time, because we have so many friends and acquaintances who are women, who maybe are successful. They went like focus on their masculine and they focus on building a business and stuff. And they're in an age where like they really want a partner. But it's conflicting, because the men they want to be with want them to be in their feminine, and the men who are happy with them being in the masculine, they're not attracted to by, right? And this is one of these situations where it's like, you can have any ideology you want. You can live in whatever culture you want. Like adults should choose whatever they want. But there's certain things that are not arbitrary, right? Like our instincts when it comes to intimate connection or sexuality or romance, that they're kind of wired into us. So I see, and I don't coach women very often. And now if I do coach a woman, it's like in a relationship coaching setting where I'm coaching the man and the woman. But back when I used to coach single women, not that I'm opposed to it, but it's just been a while, I would see this a lot, where like a woman doesn't want to give up her masculine side, but her body craves that, right? Like her mind and her body are totally at odds. And it's kind of a sad thing, actually. And I think this is one aspect of, like, obviously, again, an adult should do whatever they want or live however they want, but it doesn't seem to lead to happiness, right? Like telling women, I don't want to speak too much because I don't feel like it's right for a man to say how women should live or a woman to tell men how to live. But like, it doesn't seem to lead to female happiness. The feminist prescription of prioritizing your career and these masculine things. Like, I know so many women who have said, like, I would have given it all up to be with a really good man and have a family, despite whatever corporate success or business success. And, again, this is, I'm generalizing, but this is what I've seen more often than not.
If we don't generalize, we can't learn, right? It's hard for us to grow and learn and realize concepts. Yeah, that's the whole point of the word generalization. It's not 100% true. But without generalizations or labels, it's really hard to have a conversation like we're having now. And so I think they're valuable in that way. Just don't be attached to them. So thank you for having your generalizations, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, cool.
And this is an interesting thing because I've run into women that are CEOs, like the same attitude, right? I'd give it all. I would have given it all up for a man that could have popped me into my feminine and keep me there. But the interesting part is, I think what they're saying right there is a man that could pop me into my feminine because I'm so masculine, versus just learning to go into your feminine, and B, would they have given it all up at a younger age? Now that they're older, there's this whole like hindsight thing. It's like I wish. And it's a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, I think it's hard for anyone who maybe made a life choice that they regret. It's a hard thing to admit that. And maybe it's even psychologically healthier to just like double down on what you did. And, anyway, I do see that with what you just said, a woman who's really in her masculine, the percentage of men that she would actually be attracted to because they can put her into her feminine become very small. Whereas a woman who can go deep into her feminine, she can be really happy with, it's just like, it gives you more options. And that's what I was saying before, like women who really go into that expression of themselves, it's very hard to find a man they can date, right? It's and you see these stats like maybe in angry red pill forums of like, oh, all women only want to date men who make more than them. Yeah, that's true, right? I mean, I don't, any woman, no matter what her politics or morality is, like she doesn't want to be with a guy who makes a lot less than her, right? Because it puts her in, makes him dependent on her materially, that forces her into a masculine role. And like that doesn't turn her on. Like she's not going to get off on that situation unless she has like some mommy complex stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, that formula doesn't seem to work for men or women.
Do you think that is really about women saying, yeah, I want a man that makes a certain amount of money, but what they're deep down inside saying is, I want a man that makes me feel safe and secure?
Totally. Yeah. And actually, one of my friends who I've introduced you to in the past, like, I mean, I won't say his name for this reason, but like for a long time, his wife made way more money than him for a long time, but he really emphasize, and now this is something he teaches, like to really be the dominant one in his household and really make her feel like a girl when she comes home from her corporate job. And that actually worked, right? And now I think his business has taken off more recently, but like that was okay. It wasn't really about the money, but money is a thing, right? Money is a factor. And, in absent of all these other deeper things, like that is kind of what it points to. And actually, this statistic, there's this book, The Virility Paradox, about testosterone that I read some time ago, and had all these studies related to testosterone and relationships. And the two biggest indicators of divorce, at least in the West, or maybe in America, was when the woman had above average levels of testosterone or the woman made significantly more money. Like those relationships almost always ended in divorce. And I thought that's really interesting, right? Because these are cold hard facts, right? It's not that's not just conjecture.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I still wonder how much the money played into that versus the guy's own insecurity. I'll give you an example. I had a friend, Daniel. Now, these weren't relationships. He was just great at picking up women, but he had no money. He lived in a van. No, he didn't live in a van. That was another guy. But he had no money. He was fresh on parole. Great guy. But he came out of prison and had no jobs. But yet he could pick up women like crazy. And I asked him one time, I said, most guys really associate their income with getting women. And he said, yeah, I don't do that. He says, one thing I know, he says, if I'm broke, at least I can get laid. And he could. And it was fascinating to watch because he would get women so turned on. It was ridiculous. And so I just think this is really interesting. How much these guys, is it statistically true that the women want them to have more money, or is it the guys feel like they're not valuable enough? So they feel less than the women and shrink around the women, and therefore the women don't feel safe with them.
It could be both. But I think if you asked most women, or I'm thinking of like, maybe these red pill videos that I should stop watching, but like, you ask women, would you date a guy who makes half the money you do? Most would say no. But of course, if they actually met a guy who really had the goods, who really had the charisma, who really made her feel amazing, then that can be overcome. But it's just like, I guess in the same way that a woman wants to be with a taller guy or whatever, all these things that are superficial and they're not the thing that really matters, but everything else being equal, they would prefer it. And I guess what it really points to is the energy, right? It's not really about the money or the height or the looks. It's like, how do you make someone feel? But yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, maybe I'm over talking about at this point.
No, I think it's great. It's a lot of the people that have listened to my work in the past love these types of discussions. They love looking at all the different angles, and it's just like let's go back to the women for a second, because I think this is fascinating. Is the women who are really good at being feminine and know how to, well, depends. They can use it to manipulate or they can use it to inspire, right? And women that know how to inspire a man by being super feminine around him, I think could actually bring a lot of masculine out of a guy that isn't normally masculine. Suddenly he can start showing up. Yeah. And I think this is something that the uber masculine women don't realize. They're wanting the guys to be uber masculine, but they're not willing to go there first. And one of the things, if they mastered their feminine, they would probably have these masculine guys all around them, wanting to be there.
Like a woman can really make a guy into a king if she sees him that way, and she does the opposite. It's kind of like the thing I was saying about the hanging of the swing. Is like, she made me feel so competent just through her appreciation that, like, she just trusted I was going to do it. And I was like, all right, I'll keep figuring out the stupid drill thing. It's like, women have such a great effect on men. And I think that's the real power, right? That's something, I don't know if I'll directly say this to my daughter, but like, that's something I hope she understands. Like, that's the real feminine power, being able to fuel a man, or, anyway.
I think you just nailed it right there. I mean, that is, like, for me, that's a pure drug. When a woman believes in me and roots for me, I'll you'll slay dragons to protect her and save her. And here's a funny story. I was in Colombia, and there were these two women that worked at the coffee shop I went to every day, and they were sweethearts. And I wasn't dating either of them. I just go in and joke with them every morning, and they voted me their favorite customer. They'd always smile at me, and they'd want to give me hugs and tell me. It was just like they got so excited when I showed up. It made me want to go to this coffee shop every day because they just fed my soul. And when I left, they gave me this gift bag and all this stuff because they were sad to see me go. And I thought to myself, the way they treat me, I would die to protect. I'm not even sleeping with either of them. I'm not dating either of them. But that energy, the way they were being, was so feminine and so nurturing. I could see men going to war to protect that. And I thought it was so beautiful to experience. It's so nurturing to my soul. I just realized how I would die to protect that type of energy in the world. And I realized the effect at that moment that a truly feminine woman can have on a man. And I started thinking about society as a whole, like throughout history, how men would die to protect the women and children. And I got it instantly. I was like, the young me maybe didn't quite feel that way, the more liberal me. And as I become more conservative, as I've gotten older, that quote you talked about earlier, I really started to understand it more. And it seems like you're having a similar effect or a similar experience.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they are the fairer sex. We are the stronger sex. I mean, these are not negative things. This is like what we bring to the table,
No, yeah, they're not negative. They're beautiful. I think they're absolutely beautiful things. Like the way I feel with a really feminine woman makes me really realize what they bring out the best in me. And hopefully we as men, masculine men, bring out the best in them. I'd love to see more of that in the world.
Yeah, and I'll say, I mean, a lot of the masculine feminine stuff until I got my wife pregnant, it was kind of an abstract thing, right? It was like a thing I read about in David Data books, or like, I got the feeling, I could confirm it. But like, when a woman is pregnant, she is the feminine. Like all of that stuff, it stops being abstract. It's like she's vulnerable, she's extra emotional. She they call it pregnancy brain, like her ability to remember, schedules and like deal with numbers. Like it actually goes down. And it's not because she's dumber or anything. It's because she's going into an inward state where she has to really feel her feelings and really be tuned into her body because it's creating life. Therefore, her partner, the man, better pick up more of the slack. That's why it was kind of obvious, for me to just pay for everything. It wasn't like an ideological decision. It was just like, you be pregnant. Like that is, that's a huge, contribution you're bringing to our family. The least I could do is pay for your life, right?
Well, it sounds like it didn't just flip a switch in her, it flipped a switch in you.
Yeah, and it also feel like you feel like the man when the fact that I can provide for my wife, or like I can kill the spiders or hang the whatever house things like that. These are, you could call them archetypal patterns of like men throughout all of existence have felt good when doing these things, and that's why it feels good to do whatever, even if it's a domestic chore, right? These roles, they're not just a random cultural patriarchal thing imposing, oh, men do this and women do this. Like these are, they evolved off of natural instincts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, so as we come closer to probably the end of this podcast, I want to ask you a simple question. What do you consider what do you consider success? And I don't necessarily mean money. It could be, if that's what's important to you, but what is success to you, and on the broader scope of that idea?
I have been thinking somewhat about this because I'm sure if you asked me a couple of years ago, I would have a different answer. And actually, I'm not even sure what my answer is right now. But what came to mind, I guess, in the context of being a man in a relationship or a man in a family, or at least I'll say what I focus on now, which maybe doesn't apply to all men. But what I focus on now is materially and spiritually providing for my family, which of course the material stuff is obvious, right? Protect, provide, whatever, right? I don't want my kids to grow up broke or anything like that. I'm doing my best. So that's the hustle, right? But also, I thought, there's a time where I thought, oh, maybe I can make more money if I like went into finance or I got a regular job or did something that I didn't really want to do, but it would really material provide. And that wouldn't have been a good, an example for my children, like to slog, which is what most men do with like very noble intentions. They just push through some uninspiring cubicle existence or whatever the thing is, right? And like that wouldn't be spiritually providing for my family. Like spiritually providing is like me also having a good time and enjoying myself and, being, in my heart, if you want to put it that way, or living authentically or doing the things that I want. Like that's what models a great life. So in a way, it's like I'm doing it for myself, but I'm doing it myself because I know by really serving myself and living fully, both materially and spiritually, I'm offering the best template possible to my kids. So I guess that's my personal view of success now, which I didn't have obviously before I didn't have kids. But yeah, that's how I see it on a subjective level, at least.
Yeah, like it. Do you feel and it's I'm trying to make sure I understood this right, but do you feel that you being living fully in integrity with creating the life of your dreams the way you see it is almost required, so you model it to your children properly?
Totally. And it's like, ultimately it is about, one way to look at it is like, I'm trying to live just for me the best way possible. But kind of like we were saying before, it might be a weird analogy, but it's like, women, something external, like women when I was younger, women had to be the catalyst for certain growth. That was good for me anyway, right? I should have, worked out and got my mindset right and all these other things for myself, right? But women were the catalyst because I wanted them to like me. And to get them to like me, I had to make myself likable for myself, right? I had to like myself. And then now I guess I've just shifted the external, I don't know what you call it, like, what do they call it when like there's something that pulls, there's a word for it, like when something pulls you along. I don't remember, but like my kids have become that. It's like I still am doing it for myself, and my kids kind of keep me in check, or they're a mirror, at least in my head, they're a mirror of me living the most happy life ultimately.
Yeah, it seems like everything is really centered around your children now. It's like I really feel the love for your children, and actually the love for the life you're living.
Yeah, kids, I mean, it's like a cliche thing, but they bring so much joy into your life in a way that like nothing really does, yeah, that's it.
Well, it's kind of going off topic here, but I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Personally having children, and my dad had two children in his 50s. I'm in my 50s now, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm like, why not? I look at when I watch people like you, and there's a big stark difference between watching the people out there that are living and have to, forcing their way through life, doing the finance job or doing whatever they need to do to get by, to pay for the children. And then they come home stressed. They can't enjoy the children. They actually find the children almost annoying because they're so tired, versus somebody who is really creating reality and inviting the children to experience this creation of this beautiful thing that they're creating. And that is the part of me that wants to have children. How can I bring children on an adventure? And when I watch, like, I see your channel, I see some of your videos on Instagram, stuff like that. You're out there in Peru living this life. Or then I look at, there's a guy, I wouldn't actually mind talking to him. That mountain life. He has 3 children. He's raising in the mountains in Canada, and he takes them skiing and homeschools them skiing 60 some days a year, mountain biking in the summer, homeschools and does all that. And then there's another guy that was with his wife. They're raising their children on a sailboat, traveling the world and homeschooling them. And at every port they were going and learning about where they were at, the country, that type of stuff. That type of stuff just sounds amazing. And so now you're kind of in that category. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of the plan. I'm like 90% sure we're going to homeschool. It's still a little early, but like, yeah, like to be like, oh, one of the kids wants to learn Muay Thai. Okay, let's go to Thailand and like just do that for 6 months. Or one of the kids wants to learn a certain kind of art or ballet. Let's go to France or whatever. I don't know where ballet's a big, I guess France. But like, yeah, that's, and then like living still an adventurous life, but with kind of the purpose of education and like wholesomeness or, a positive childhood for the kids. Yeah, you should definitely, I mean, you'd be a great dad. I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, why not?
I'll have to bring my kids to learn about Peru and come visit you. If unless you've moved on by then, you could be living somewhere else by then.
It's very possible. I think we'll be here for at least a couple of years.
Nice. But I definitely want to get out there. Like I said, I'm heading out to Latin America in a couple of months, so maybe I'll drop by Peru because it's like an amazing place. There's so much history there.
We could talk about this offline, but are you going to visit Hans in Colombia?
Yeah. Hans and then I might do an interview. I don't care if you all want to hear this, but I might do an interview. He wants me to interview Frederico, I think the guy's name is.
Oh yeah. I just interviewed him recently. Yeah, interesting dude.
Yeah, he sounds. I've never met him, but he sounds interesting. So, yeah, definitely hang out with Hans. Maybe me, you, and Hans will end up. It happens all the time. End up in the same place together. Hans is still open as to where he's going to go next. So.
Yeah, I mean, because he invited me to Colombia to the finca. I'm interested. It's a little bit harder to make last minute plans with the family, but if I can make it, I'll come hang out with you guys.
That's the plan. Go hang out in the finca up in Santa Elena for a little bit. So, him and his wife Elena too. She's awesome. Well, it's awesome having you on here, man. And I'm going to seriously consider maybe a short stop in Peru and checking it out while I'm in Romania. And so I'll be thinking about you, checking out your Instagram. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with in parting? And do you want to let them know about your website, your coaching, all that kind of stuff that you got going on? Whatever you got going on, but just put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm creating more content on Instagram these days. Is kind of what I've been focusing on. But my podcast is really where I share the stuff I'm really learning. So Ruwando podcast on all the podcasting apps. And coaching, you can check out my website. I have the Masculine Archetype Challenge, which is a 21-day program I made specifically for getting in touch with your masculine instincts, the things that you may have suppressed. And actually, I think we're doing a co-promotion with you guys right now. I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but I think it's available. If I think it might be posted somewhere on your stuff. So yeah, you could check it out. It comes with a free coaching session with me if you join that program. So if you wanted to talk to me about anything, dating, relationships, purpose, anything, that's attached to that program as well.
Yeah, I've been getting some messages. People are very curious about you, just since we put that promotion out for Fearless. So good stuff. Yeah, so check out Ruwando. He's amazing, and I've watched him grow. I've watched you grow so much over the years, and really learn to express yourself. Really learn. I think that's what I really want all this to be about. Is you really learn to become who you want to be. You're learning to express yourself who you want to be, and that's what I want for everybody on this podcast. Is ultimately to reach the point where you can live the life that you've chosen to live, and that's not always becoming a crypto millionaire. It might be living in Peru off the land. It might be, who knows what it is, living on a sailboat. You got to figure out what really your burning desire inside is, and I think somebody like Ruwando can really help you figure that out. Ruan is amazing at that stuff. He's actually living it. So keep your mind open. Definitely check out his podcast. Check out his podcast for all the deep dives. You do a lot of deep dives on your podcast, right? Really deep dive.
Yeah.
Personal.
I'm trying to keep my episodes shorter. Sometimes I go rambling about Jung for too long. But actually, I want to say something. Well, first, thank you. But also, I was just telling my wife this, like the first time you interviewed me, which I think was 11 years ago, that kind of launched my career. Because I was just kind of dabbling in coaching and stuff. And like that one video kind of like gave me my first influx of interest in my work, and that's what eventually led me to coaching full time. So I don't think I've ever told you that. I just want to say thanks for that. Like that little video, I think we shot it in a hotel room on an iPhone. Like that totally set me up, you know?
The funny thing is I have had a lot of questions about you over the years. I think almost more than anybody, people always come to me and ask about you and your programs and your training, and so whatever you said, I'll have to go check that podcast out. Whatever you said on there worked. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even remember it. I mean, I was a kid back then. It was like 11 years ago, but yeah.
I remember sitting in that hotel room and trying to set up a little camera, and so everything has come a lot farther since then. So a little nicer here, a little nicer there. So, anyways, it was a pleasure having you on, and I'll definitely have you back at some point. I want to have guests that I really enjoy talking to and that have insights to give, especially if we go deep into specific topics over and over again. To go deeper into principles, things like that. So you're definitely somebody I wouldn't mind having back at some point, and especially if we have something deep to talk about. And definitely, maybe I want to hear all the insights about the horses and everything you learned from the horses.
Oh, we could probably ride if you come to Peru. I'll introduce you to the.
See, now you're really tempting me if we can go. I haven't ridden since I was a kid, so I would be totally down for that. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. Have a beautiful day out there in Peru, and everybody on the podcast, you also have a beautiful day, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome.